Welcome back to That Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Vincent A. Lanci.
And I'm Kaywanda.
Kaywanda is rejoining us for another episode where we rewind the clock. This entrepreneur talked about expanding her business on the first episode, and over the pandemic, I'm excited to share that her course is about to launch. Get ready to learn from an inspiring journey. Each week on this platform, I interview a different entrepreneur from across the globe. I will continue to offer episodes in all industries to provide you with many different perspectives. You never know which motivational journey will inspire you most. Each guest will take you through their story and help you learn from their successes and lessons learned. It is time for another bonus episode of Rewind the Clock. I will bring back guests for the second run now that are continuing to make headlines and grow their brands. Today's guest is rejoining us as an author, speaker, blogger, podcaster, and the winning single mom. Kaywanda had a choice to make: to stay in a relationship that did not honor her or to raise her boys as a single mom. She decided to do it anyway and has spent the last 16 years showing other women that they, too, can parent, thrive, and win. She returned to college 4 times in that span and holds a master's in Spanish literature, runs 3 businesses, and is a certified principal. Her motto is "do it anyway because you can dream about it or you can be about it." And I love that quote. And as I said, she has now expanded her business in a few new ways, and her expansion can serve as a great blueprint for you all to do the same. Allow me to now introduce Kaywanda Lamb. Kaywanda, it's great to see you again, and thank you for coming back on the show.
Thanks, Vince. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Would you mind please reintroducing yourself to our listeners and previewing your story just a bit without giving away too much of your entrepreneurial journey and recent updates?
Wow. Well, geez, I am a mom. I'm an educator, author, and just to preview my story, this last year in the pandemic was stressful. But it also caused me to have one of the biggest business years, the biggest years in business that I've ever had because my back was against the wall. And so I'm excited to kind of talk about what happened and maybe your listeners can get a little bit from my story. But yeah, lots of things popping.
Yeah, I'm excited for everyone to learn about them. And Kaywanda, where are you tuning in from today?
So I'm tuning in from McKinney, Texas. That's Dallas, Texas, for those who don't know where McKinney is.
And you have a little bit of snow today.
Oh my gosh, we do not know how to behave. We have a lot of snow. I look out my window and I'm like, oh, beautiful wonderland. I'm not going outside.
Well, great thing we have innovations such as Zoom for us to take care of this podcast, even with the bad weather. And I think it will now be a great time to get into the Big Five. On each episode with a new guest on this platform, my guest and I go through the Big Five, which is the same series of 5 questions to help you, the listeners, learn what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. Rewind the Clock episodes will have a Big Five of its own. You ready to go, Kaywanda?
I am.
Great. So it's been a while since we last met. I would love to revisit the business you introduced to us on your first episode.
Well, we talk about my business, The Winning Single Mom, and how much I love empowering single mothers. And that's the brand that I'm an author, 3-time author in. I get, opportunities to speak every month. When people think about single mothers, they think about me. And I love that because I've been in that brand and really been passionate about that movement for 7-8 years. And so when we were discussing that, like how it took me a while to learn how to turn my passion, my desire to help moms into an actual business. And so for many years, I paid a lot of money out of my pocket, things weren't always profitable. But through personal development, training, seeking out other entrepreneurs like yourself and just learning and gleaning from others, I realized, oh yeah, like women need coaching, people need programs, they need courses, people need to know how to do this thing. And that's what led me to write the book, And so the first book, Do It Anyway, is my bestseller. And then my second book, Parent, Thrive, Win, which is a devotional, just really blesses moms. And so last year in that business, I launched a planner. It's called the Single Mom Success Planner. And, that's been going really well. And like I said, before COVID, lots of things were lined up with that brand. But what people didn't know is that I am a 15-year Spanish language educator. And it's in my bio, you read it. And so about 5 years ago, some of my business friends started asking me to teach them Spanish. And so that's the new development. That's what really caused me last year to be able to take care of my family. That business alone, pretty much. And I don't know, I may be getting ahead of myself, but that's what's new because I sat down and I said, entrepreneurs and small business owners need Spanish. And most people don't know they need it until it's too late, until they get the influx of clients and they don't know how to speak to them or service them, or their employees and them are communicating and there's a breakdown, right? And the job doesn't get done right. And they're like, oh yeah, well, maybe I need to learn some Spanish. So that's what I do. I offer customized business Spanish language lessons, and I'm launching a course next month.
Now at the Spanish, you couldn't be more right. It's very important because English is not the only spoken language by a long shot anymore. And
Yeah.
here in Florida, a lot of Spanish speaking communities. So I've been starting to learn my Spanish tips. I think I shared with you with goals to really pick it up a little bit. And I could see a future collaboration with you and I for sure once I get a little more confident in my speaking. But you said what you're up to now. It's a Spanish course. When can we expect to sign up for it? Are you doing some things on Facebook you might have mentioned? And let our listeners know how they can start learning more.
Absolutely. So I have the brand is called Spanish for Small Business. So we have a website, SpanishForSmallBusiness.com. You can go there and already enroll for the course that's going to launch on March 18th. And so it is a self-paced course, but it comes with weekly Q&A. So I'll be able to be there to answer your questions, to provide support, me and my team. And so I'm just so excited about the way that this is launching because, obviously you can only have so many one-on-one clients, right?
Right.
So many people can work with me one-on-one, but I wanted to create something. I've looked at the market. I know what's out there. And what people really need is they need to know how to speak. And when it comes to business, there's certain things we need to be able to do, like knowing your colors isn't something I need to be spending time on. Okay. But you being able to ask for directions, knowing how to order food, those are things that you need to know how to do. And so I have clients who travel to Spanish speaking countries. And after 4 or 5 years of working with people, I've really looked at what's similar, what's different, and how can I create a course that really helps majority of people that are out here in business. And so I'm so excited. It's called Spanish for Entrepreneurs, but don't let that frighten you. It's just a nice little catchy name. And if you're in business, this can help you. All right. So that's what I'm up to. And we're on social, we're on Instagram. We're going to be pushing out more content. But I love this, Vincent, and I love connecting with you because you are such a go-getter. You are so inspiring to me. And I've enjoyed being able to network with you and see how much you've grown and how your podcast is just zooming. So thank you for this.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And I have to say about you, it's great to see your journey progress because you're always motivated for the next step, which is why I love to bring on guests with your ambition level. But I would like to hop into this next question because I think it will help the listeners immensely as we are all in this together. Still a year later, we are battling the COVID-19 pandemic. It's affected all of our businesses. Let's talk about how it's affected your entrepreneurial endeavors. And again, we'll start with business that you brought on your first episode.
All right, so my Winning Single Mom brand was set to launch a membership last year. I was set to have speaking engagements. And when COVID happened, all of that stuff got canceled. And it's okay because, the membership is still happening. It's something I can do virtually. But what I realized that I had to do was pivot. So I kept engaging my community of single mothers. And I actually sat down to write an ebook, and that ebook is called How to Write Your First Book in a Weekend. And that is literally going to be a third brand that I introduce and go out in once I do what I want to do with the first two. But it's literally available. I wrote that ebook, and then I wrote a second one, and then I recorded a course. And people say, well, what is this? Why did you do that? I said, it was because I saw my single mothers out there frantic, freaking out. And I wanted to take my knowledge, my information of what I had learned about writing books and how that changed my life, how that brought income, how that established authority, how I could take something that I knew and then provide for my family. And so I sold it at 27 bucks. And let me tell you, it's $2,700 or more worth of information.
Right.
And because it's not one of those, oh, I could have found this on the internet things. And so when you talk about what did I do last year to pivot in COVID, in March, I was in the shower and I was like, okay, talking to God. That's my talking to God space. And, you know, my me time and self-care. And I was like, what am I going to do? How can I help women? You know, I'm okay. You know, I had retirement, I had savings. You know, I have hustle. You know what I mean? I know I can turn this thing on and tell somebody something to change their life, and somebody's going to want to give me money, right? And that's a blessing to get there, because there was a time when I didn't feel like that, right? But we have to believe in our products and our businesses, and it's something that I believe in. I believe that that there are people that still need me, and so that causes me to get up. So because of that, I said I'm going to take this knowledge that I paid a lot of money to have, that I did a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings to get to the point of where I'm excellent at this, and I'm going to sell it to people for a small amount of money. And I did that. I put that together and I wrote 3 hours on a Saturday, 3 hours on a Sunday, and I launched it a few days later, sales page and all. And it was amazing. That ebook sold all over the world, and that helped me pay my bills in a pandemic. And so because that was working in the background for me, I then began to start talking about the Spanish business more, because before everything was word of mouth and referrals.
Yep. I always learn how to market better, and I learned that word of mouth is the best that will stick, but it's also the hardest to get. So I like how you pivoted there during the pandemic, and it's a good lesson for everybody listening, where we have the internet, we were stuck home. She found a way to use it and use her skills, combine the two, and create an additional revenue stream. But Kaywanda, over the years, you've had to have a couple pieces of advice that stuck out to you. What is the best piece of advice that you were ever given, and who is it from?
I will tell you that I know that this changes every time you interview me. But I will tell you now what is really blessing me. There's a gentleman by the name of Lamar Tyler, and he runs an entrepreneur group on Facebook. It's called Traffic Sales and Profit. I'm a proud member. I've been a fan of his since 2015, 2014, something like that. And he says that done is better than perfect. Now, I don't know if he created it, but it stuck with me because for years I've been a perfectionist. And what people want is solutions. They're not looking for perfection. So if there's any entrepreneur that's out there that's like, I'm working on it, I'm working on it, I'm working on it, I'm gonna launch it, I'm gonna launch it, you know, done is better than perfect. And that's just really been blessing me in this pandemic.
I was the same way for a while as an entrepreneur. I think everybody's a perfectionist in the field because it's your baby. You want to you want to just be perfect, but eventually you have to let the foot off the gas and realize that you came a long way. You put a lot of work into this project and there is value in it. So you can't be too hard on yourself. But Kaywanda, as entrepreneurs, we are constantly learning. If you could recommend one book to our community of entrepreneurs, which book would it be? Who is the author? And briefly describe that book for us.
This is always so hard. So hard because there's so many books and I just love them. But I will tell you that I recently read Flywheel, and Flywheel has changed my life. It was so good that I actually had to go get it on Audible. And so within the Flywheel, and it's a really short book. It's like a monolith. And I had to look up what monolith was. All right. And so what it does is it tells you to start honing in on what piece of your business is really making you the most money and how to ramp that up and how to get that. And if you can get that thing going, if you can figure out what your processes are, like how you service your customers, what's the big thing that people are coming to you for. And he took a survey of companies over, I think it was like 20 years of major companies, like what worked, what didn't work. And then he said, you know, we can learn from the tragedies, we can learn from the successes, we can look at what was happening in these companies' peaks that somebody had really honed in on and what was working for them. Like, I mean, we all know the story of Blockbuster, right?
Of course.
And Netflix, I think we've all heard that. And it's just so shocking. And we're like, why didn't they pivot? And so, turning your flywheel, getting in there, learning what your systems and processes are. And this is, of course, by Jim Collins, and it's one of the best books I've read. It's like 40 pages, and that actually wasn't on my own. It was actually a recommendation, and I'm so glad that I took the time and sit down and read it, because it makes me think, like, what are my key systems and processes, and how can I make sure that they're constantly running? And so I will tell you one thing, Vince, what this has done for me, because I'm a solopreneur, right? Entrepreneur. It's shared with me that I don't have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 years to build a team. I can start building a team now. And that might be with virtual assistants or contractors and people that do, one-off projects for me. But in order to make sure that my flywheel is running and working smoothly, I'm going to need help, right? And so that's one of the things that I'm working on in my business right now. So this is by Jim Collins. It's called Flywheel, and it's FLYWHEEL. It's so good.
That sounds like a great recommendation for everyone, because that's the mindset you need to start having. Hone in on what works, stop wasting time on what doesn't. And as we talked about before the show, I'm expanding my team now too, because you realize there are people who do things better than you, and that's okay. You cannot be great at everything. It's just not possible. You can be okay at everything, but sometimes that fresh perspective, that new idea, it can go a long way. So thank you for that book recommendation. And Kaywanda, as you know, it's normally time for the Spotlight story, but instead on Rewind the Clock episodes, I would like to give my guests the opportunity to shout out and bring light to another entrepreneur's endeavors. Who would you like to show some love to?
You know who's doing amazing is our friend that we have in common, Mr. Tony Alexander. I think that the work that he does and what he does in his day job, which he doesn't promote, what he does in his day job, he's such a boss.
Yes.
That people have no idea, but he's so concerned about the Black community and all communities, right? But diversity and inclusion is really big for him.
That's his
and
thing.
So last week he had me on a panel that was talking about reviving Black love, right, in our communities. And I went in thinking it was going to be all about relationships and, just talking about that. But no, it was really deep. It was really good. I think like 12,000 people watched it,
Amazing.
Across all their platforms. And it was just so refreshing to have a space to have those conversations. And he's thinking about doing a part 2. So he does something called SGI leadership, and you can talk about him and plug him. But I think right now he's just impressing me beyond belief with everything that I know that he does. And then he still finds time to pull back, reach back, and help. And he's also been a big supporter of my Winning Single Mom brand. Last year during the pandemic, he paid for coaching for a single mother in Jamaica. And I coached her internationally. And he also paid for my books and my planner to be shipped to her, which unfortunately has not happened yet. I shipped, and 3 months later, we find out that it never made it.
Oh, no.
And so I can't wait for the world to open up again so she can get these in her hands. But it's people like that make the world go round. And I would say that if there are some listeners out there who are like, I'm not a single mom, but I want to help single mothers, there are lots of organizations and opportunities to do so. And if you would like to partner with me, I am game. I am game. I would love to help in that way.
I love the shout out for Tony, because he is coincidentally on this season being aired, his first episode joining the show. Somehow he never joined the show over the first 7 seasons. So season 8, we have a spot for Tony. So look out for his episode now too.
Yay! I can't believe that.
Yeah, he's on this season. So Kaywanda, thank you so much for coming back on the show today. I know our listeners are going to see all the value in your episode. I loved how you emphasized that you did not stop grinding. You have ideas for another business, but you also gave the advice to, okay, let's make sure the first 2 are where they are. And we're content with that, because that's a lot of mistakes that people make where they get too ahead of themselves. And we're all guilty of either doing that or almost doing that. And that's great advice, just to make sure you have your pieces in line before you do. I love the book you recommend. I think that's something I'm going to pick up as well, because I have a queue of books that unfortunately keeps growing larger and larger, but
Yeah.
a smaller book like that, you could have time for a nice Sunday afternoon to check it out.
Yes.
But it is time for the last word. And I also do this in my other podcast series because I want the listeners to really have the opportunity to get to know all of my guests. Is there something that you would like to share with everyone that we did not touch on yet today?
I just want to say, don't give up on your dreams. Just do not give up on your dreams. Reach out to people like Vincent. There is power in numbers, and there's so much wisdom in the community. So when you feel down, you feel like something isn't working, you know what I found the answer is? The answer is to keep going and to be consistent and to try again. And the success I have now is because I kept showing up all those years. Does that make sense? So, one, don't be down on yourself. Two, believe in your dreams. Three, reach out for help. Four, never give up.
It's an incredible last word. Nothing is overnight. As much as we all wish things would happen quickly, we think we made enough phone calls, we have the connection we need for it to take off. Unfortunately, it's probably another year away, so don't get down yourself. Great advice. Hey, Kaywanda, can you please take the time to share your professional social media, the website, any ways for our listeners to request your services and follow your endeavors?
Absolutely. So for the Winning Single Mom brand, you can find me at kaywandalamb.com. I'm Kaywanda Lamb everywhere, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And for Spanish for Small Business, you can reach me at SpanishForSmallBusiness.com. I'm on LinkedIn and, of course, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
Be sure to check out all of her great content, and it is also social media time for the show, and we're on whichever platform you'd like to use. We're at That Entrepreneur Show on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and we're at Podcasts by Lanci on Twitter, so you get updates from this show and a mental health break. Of course, my handles are at Vincent A. Lanci for all social media and YouTube, and my website is vincentalanci.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate the show 5 stars and continue listening by subscribing. And as always, I will end the show with a quote that inspired me, and know it will for you too. This one is from Gloria Steinem. She said, "Dreaming, after all, is a form of planning." Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all on the next episode of That Entrepreneur Show.